When dawn comes, a story of Africa would have already been told. Words will rise with the morning sun, embracing the existence of human beings, enlightening Africans about Africa. People shall harvest fresh, fully fleshed fruits produced by God's creation. Men shall hunt and provide for their families, while women prepare meals for their children and teach them how to recite poetry in their mother tongue. A re boeleng gae ga mahlaku marupeng setšo bogabo bogologolo ke rete mme motswadi ke re wena mma mosadi wa mo Afrika yo a tshwarago thipa ka bogaleng mabogo a gagwe a lwe o sa le sesetsana o sema ka sa motho o letše teng dinku tša hlaba mokgoši ka go thia kgošigadi magoši a hlaba megolokwane le kgono ke e kgantšha ka bonna le bonna bja ka ge o ile wa mpha monyetla go tšweletša le go phatlalatša peu ya popelo ya gago duka la Muvenda ngwana wa gara tshigurudzwana tsha luonde mushavi bvula mato u sedze vhumatshelo hao kha ri humele muraho kha zwa sialala ri humele muraho hayani Venda ha mulima thondoni ha mulima huna mbudzi tshena i penga na mashau wayo shau dzembeni shau dzembeni ingisela n'wana wa makwerhu hi khensa vutomi amisaveni hi khensa vutomi amisaveni ku tika ka misava ku tiviwa hi vakhale chela fola phahla u vulavula na vakokwani u va tivisa ku ri wena u huma kwini ku ri wena hi wena mani Thixo ndiyabulela xa undiva xa ngigqiba ukuthandaza wonke amaxesha. Identity lost its meaning. Black men, who are you? Tradition and culture faded. Religion, on the other hand, it is manipulated. Beauty is paraded. Unity, harmony, and peace are overrated. My Africa is divided. Mother Nature, we need your guidance. Rutang banadi taola, lisieng le tsona badimong. Bashimani ba tle ba tsebe gore tlhompho le lerato di aga setšhaba. Pula.
Oh, my goodness. Oh, what a wonderful poem there. And a multilingual poet. Thank you so much, Rebu Dumelo, Gaddafi, the poet, Maigai. We are now going straight to item number 9, where I'm going to ask my dear doc, Dr. Chinsami, to now start with this roundtable discussion. Dr. Chinsami, the stage is yours now. We can start now with the roundtable discussion. Thank you so much. You are sharing the session. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kaka, there for the introduction of the roundtable. I'd just like to confirm all our roundtable panelists are with us today. That's Mayor Yanana, Mayor Chisumba, Baba Kuzwayo, and Ras Gareth Prince. Are we all together online?
Ras Gareth Prince is present.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Cynthia Chishimbe present, and Gethe Yanana.
Thank you very much. Colleagues, so we're going to have a session, a roundtable session. Each of the panelists have been engaged to share on the national, regional, international potentialities of Indigenous knowledge systems-based innovations and initiatives. So I'm going to invite them in the order of the program, and Mayor Yanana, if you can please also give us a little background on of yourself and your organization, and then you may proceed for a 10-minute period. I will give a small indication when we are coming close to your time allocation. Ma?
As to this important occasion, can you hear us?
Yes, dear, if you're able to put on your video. Alternatively, I can request for the
Yeah,
IT.
we're trying to sort ourselves out. We're going from it.
Perhaps to assist, I could move to the other colleagues.
Yes,
the other,
move to other colleagues, please. We're still sorting out here. We're having a network problem here. So,
not a problem.
okay.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, we will move to the next panelist, Baba Kuzwayo. Baba Kuzwayo, same please, your mic and video. And if he's also experiencing any challenges, then we can also move on to Ras Gareth Prince. Ras Gareth Prince, are we all right to proceed?
Yes, can you hear me and see me?
Very well, sir. Just as a way to introduce you, perhaps, just something from our side, if you would not mind. Our Ras Gareth Prince, he is a legal practitioner, a trained lawyer working with NGOs such as Lawyers for Human Rights and Surplus People Project, while also representing Rastafari and members of the cannabis community at the Parliament for World Religions and the Consultative Conference, the Commission for the Promotion and Protection of Cultural, Religious and Linguistic Rights of Communities. And currently he is serving as the national chairperson of the Cannabis Development Council of South Africa. Ras Gareth Prince, please, you are welcome for your 10-minute presentation.
Thank you so much for inviting me and having us and affording this opportunity to speak about Indigenous knowledge systems and the opportunities that it holds for Indigenous knowledge practitioners and fellow South Africans. We find ourselves at a very exciting juncture, but at the same time, we are also very concerned that 21 years into the 21st century, that we could see Indebele cultural activist Tandu Maslangu the other day being denied access into a mall because he was proudly South African and proudly African. You know, it's really sad and unfortunate that 25 years into our constitutional democracy, 7 years into our constitutional democracy, that Indigenous expression that is still frowned upon. You know, it really goes against the grain of our constitution, and it goes against everything that we as a society have fought for more than 400 years to attain. We find ourselves that 26, 27 years into our constitutional democracy, that millions of our people still do not have access to the most basic of rights and entitlements within South Africa. We find ourselves in a situation where those of us who choose to express ourselves and not to see ourselves through the lens of Western society are still marginalized and ostracized within this society. Myself, as a legal practitioner for the past 25 years, I have been frowned upon and I have been deemed not fit and proper simply because I refuse to adhere to Western practices and because I proudly champion my culture, my tradition. We now have an Indigenous Knowledge System Act that was signed into law in 2019. And whereas on paper, it sounds beautiful and it would seemingly provide the legislative and the regulatory framework for us to thrive in. But we still see that IKS practitioners are not thriving. IKS practitioners, those who choose to give expression to the natural, to the African way of doing things, are still being marginalized. So just as with our constitution, which for some people are the envy of the world, we find that there's a disconnect between what it says on paper and how it translates into practice. What is exciting is that finally now we find ourselves at a juncture where government they are obliged to provide a legislative and a regulatory framework for us to work with cannabis. Because the only way in which IKS practitioners are going to thrive and flourish within South Africa is if we are allowed to work with what we have in order to attain what we want. At Rastafari people, we say music and herbs is the healing of the nation. Now, with regard to herbs, that translates into serious health concerns. And when we talk about health, we talk about medicines. And we must realize that South Africa has a very rich herbal culture. In the Western Cape, where I'm from, we alone here have more than 8,000 endemic herbal species. We haven't even begun to scratch the surface of what it is that these plants can do for us. In other parts of the country, we have several medicinal barks and several other things that forms the basis of traditional medicines within South Africa. That is a multi-billion rand industry. We need to protect these, we need to preserve these, and that is where our government must take the lead. It is very important because they cannot expect this innovation to come from the people on the ground, because for the last 400 years, we have been ravaged by slavery and poverty, disease, and inequality. So policy must drive innovation going forward in relation to indigenous knowledge systems, in relation to traditional medicines. Our government must take the lead. And we find ourselves now in a beautiful position where we are able to really demonstrate how civil society can work together with government in order to affect the necessary change with their people. And cannabis and traditional medicines provide us with the opportunity to do that. We do not want to open ourselves up to a situation where foreigners and big multinational companies can simply come into our country and exploit the fact that we are poverty-stricken, the fact that we are desperate, and use these against our people to again simply see us as a source of raw material. We want our government to assist us. We want our government to assist the graduates that come from these programs, such as that which is pioneered and championed at Northwest University, to be able to go into an industry where they can innovate. We do not want our young graduates to become imitators. We want them to become innovators. And in the field of traditional medicine and traditional health, we can innovate if we have the assistance from our government. Our youngsters are lean, they are hungry. They can do it if they are given the necessary opportunities. We need to move away from the moralistic views that people have in relation to cannabis, in relation to traditional medicines. And we as African people, we need to assert that pride, that self-authority, that self-reliance in relation to what we have. And we must be confident that we can use that in order to uplift ourselves out of the quagmire of poverty, inequality, and disease, and to catapult ourselves towards prosperity. So let us work with what we have, which is indigenous medicines, which is indigenous herbs, which is indigenous cultural expression, and use that to put ourselves forward. We have the framework within this country. We have the laws. We have millions of unemployed youth. We need our government to use our tax monies in order to assist us in the myriad of fields that we can advance ourselves. Our people need houses. They need food. They need books for schools. They need schools. And simply by focusing on building houses, building schools, ensuring that people have clothes, ensuring that young girls have sanitary pads that would allow them to go to school 5 days a week and not stay at home because they can't afford sanitary pads. These are the industries that must be started. And the youngsters that have graduated from these IKS programs, millions of other unemployed youths, these are exactly and that is what we need to encourage them to do. And that is where government must show initiative and work with the people in order to have innovative policies that work to assist our people and not to frustrate them and not to put obstacles in the way of prosperity. And we are only going to do that if we have the courage to innovate. We don't have to look to the West. We can learn from the experiences of China, and we can learn from the experience of India, where they saw the need to protect and preserve traditional medicines. Because what Africa stands to give to the world has only been partially realized. And we must know that a lot of wealth lie within what we currently have. It has been established, pardon, that the medicinal cannabis oil made from indigenous land-raised cannabis is amongst the highest and the best medicines in the world. It has the highest concentration of cannabinoids in the world. Indigenous land-raised cannabis. That is where we can carve out a niche for ourselves, and we can become experts in providing quality medicines for the rest of the world, but first and foremost for our people. We need to be concerned about providing within the basic needs of our people and indigenous ways of doing that. As such, in the past, we were hamstrung because indigenous expression was frowned upon. Indigenous expression was not allowed to flourish commercially. We were taken to prison if we dared to plant plantations full of herb. We had to suffer the worst sanction that society can offer simply because we chose to be African. Now we understand that in going forward, we have to work with our government. And if we say that we are a constitutional democracy, then we will only use arrest for the most serious of crimes. And we will not do that in relation to things that we have been doing for hundreds of years. We find that within the economic space, it is very, very competitive. And we have a 400-year backlag. That is from where we find ourselves. That is why it is imperative that government partner with its people, open up the avenues for our people to start to use what they have in order to advance themselves. The whole capitalistic model is not going to work for indigenous knowledge systems, for indigenous knowledge practitioners. We cannot simply be assimilated into Western cultures. We have the opportunity to advance our own, and we have the opportunity to make a significant contribution to world commerce and to our own commerce if we develop what it is that we have. If we do not attain economic stability, we will never have the respect of our peers, we will never have the respect of other foreign countries, and we will not have the respect of those who come after us, who will point out that we have failed them. We have an opportunity to do better. We want to do better. We have the legislative framework. We need our leaders. We need their mindsets to be changed, and we need them to start loving themselves as Africans. That is the strong point that we are trying to make here, that we have something to give. We have something unique to give to the world. And the potential for innovation and the potential for development is so immense if we give ourselves a chance. The Cannabis Development Council of South Africa, of which I'm the current chairperson, is willing and able to work with government in order to realize these aspirations, in order to realize these ideals, in order to ensure that freedom, dignity, and equality and social justice really becomes solid pillars and foundation on which we will be able to build a society that will not only be the envy of the rest of the world, but that would secure the economic stability of Africa and South Africans for generations to come. We have a golden opportunity at this stage, but we will only realize that potential if we innovate and not imitate. Thank you very much.